All right, we're coming off a 6-0 day in my personal bets yesterday on BrockPage.com. So $1,000 bettors were up over $5,400 yesterday just from Sunday alone. We also improved to 5-2 in our last $7.99 daily best plays on that very same website. And the link for that $1.99 pick, it's really cheap, and it's in the description section below. And all the picks that I give out on BrockPage.com are my personal bets, games that I personally have action on. Yesterday's behind us. Let's get back to action. Let's continue to build this bankroll. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. Clippers take on the Pacers, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off on Monday, January 31st, 2022. Indiana's -2 with the total at 219.5. Now, the Pacers covered the point spread in 5 out of their last 7 ball games, and they do have a winning record against the point spread at home this year. Having said that, though, Indiana did lose 7 out of their last 10 ball games straight up, and they're still going to work here without their leading scorer, Malcolm Brogdon. And even when they're mostly healthy, the Pacers have struggled on the defensive end of the court this season. They're actually dead last in defensive field goal percentage at home, and they're giving up nearly 112 points a game in the Gainbridge Fieldhouse. They're taking on a Clipper team who won 3 out of their last 4 themselves. And in addition to that, they also posted a record of 7-1 against the spread in their last 8. Now, LA's done a really nice job on the defensive end of the court this year. They're currently in the top 3 in defending the 3 ball. And they're also in the top 3 in defensive field goal percentage on the road. Now, when it comes to the scoring in this one, Reggie Jackson's averaging over 16 points a game, along with 3 boards and 4 assists. Meanwhile, Luke Kennard, he's making over 44% of his three-pointers. He's also scoring a dozen points a game. And speaking of 3 balls, the Clippers are currently in the top 10 in the NBA in offensive three-point percentage on the road. Now, injury-wise, when it comes to that injury report, Batum and Preston are still out. They're still questionable for today's action. Meanwhile, for the Pacers on the other side of things, Brogdon, Turner, McConnell, and Warren, they're all still out. Meanwhile, Batazzi and Brissett, they are listed as questionable. And when it comes to the total in this one, Indiana saw their last 4 straight get over the posted number. They also went 70% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, the Clippers are 6-2 to the over in their last 8 themselves. I'm going to lean toward the LA Clippers +2 and the over 219.5. Next matchup I have for you, it is going to be Grizzlies versus the Sixers, 7 p.m. Eastern start time. Now, Philadelphia is -3.5 at the Wells Fargo Center, totals 221. Now, Philly did fail to cover in 3 out of their last 5 ball games, and they've actually had a tough time with Memphis in recent meetings. Having said that, though, the Sixers have won their last 4 straight, and they also got the W in 7 out of their last 9. These guys are playing some very good basketball over the past handful of weeks or so. Joel Embiid, he's averaging nearly 30 points a game, along with double-digit rebounds. Meanwhile, Seth Curry, he's drilling nearly 42% of his three-pointers. He's also averaging over 15.5 points a night. Now, when it comes to defensive play, the Sixers give up only 104 points a game at the Wells Fargo Center. They're taking on a Memphis squad who does a poor job of shooting on the road. They're currently in the bottom 10 in the NBA in offensive field goal percentage away from home. And they're also making just 32% of their three-pointers in that very same category. Meanwhile, defensively on the other end of the court, they're also having a pretty tough time guarding the 3 ball on the road as well. When it comes to the injury report, Brooks is still out. Jones and Williams are questionable. Meanwhile, for Philadelphia on the other side of things, Korkmaz is questionable for them. Milton is still out. Now, total-wise, Philly's gone 15-8 to the under at home this season, 61% to the under for the entire year. Meanwhile, Memphis went 6-3 to the under in their last 9 themselves. I'm going to lean toward Philadelphia -3.5 and the under 221. All right, next matchup I have for you, it is going to be Pelicans versus the Cavaliers, and that's going to be a 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off in Cleveland. Now the Cavs are -8 with the total at 210.5. The Cavaliers got the W in 8 out of their last 10, and they're arguably the toughest defensive team out there, at least in the Eastern Conference. The Cavs allow only 101 points a game on the road, and they're also in the top 5 in guarding the three ball in front of their home fans. Now, scoring-wise, when it comes to offensive production, Darius Garland is averaging just about 20 points a game, along with 3 boards and 8 assists. Meanwhile, Jared Allen, he's scoring over 16 points a game, along with double-digit rebounds. And speaking of boards in this one, well, the Cavaliers are currently in the top 10 in defensive rebounding per game. They're taking on a Pelicans team who scores only 102 points per contest on the road, and they're getting the W in only 28% of their away games. Really having a tough time getting the W when traveling. Now, the Pels are also having a tough time on the defensive end of the court this year as well. They currently find themselves in the bottom 3 in guarding the three ball, and their opponents are making nearly 48% of their field goals against them when they travel. That's kind of like a college basketball stat there. But anyway, injury-wise, all their big scorers are banged up right now. Valanciunas, Ingram, Hart, and Murphy, they're all questionable for the Pels. Meanwhile, for Cleveland on the other side, Markkanen is still out indefinitely for them. Not really sure when we can expect him back, but you're not going to see him in action here tonight. Now, total-wise, Cleveland went 60% to the under in their last 10 outings. They're also 17-7 to the under at the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Meanwhile, the Pelicans are 60% to the under when they travel themselves. I'm going to lean toward Cleveland -8 and the under 210.5. All right, next ball game I have for you, it is going to be Heat versus the Celtics, 7:30 Eastern tip-off. Boston is -2.5, totals 209. Now, the Celtics have been playing some pretty good basketball here recently. They're winners of 3 out of their last 4 ball games. And they've also gone 16-10 straight up at the TD Garden. They've been playing some pretty good basketball in front of their home fans. Now, the Celtics have been very tough defensively this season as well. They're currently in the top 3 in defensive field goal percentage, and they're allowing only 103 points a game in front of their home crowd. Now, offensively, Jason Tatum, he's scoring over 26 points a game, along with 8 boards and 4 assists. Meanwhile, Jaylen Brown, he's scoring over 24 points a night himself, along with 6 rebounds and 3 assists. Now, the Celtics are currently in the top 5 in the association in offensive rebounding. They're going to work against a Miami team here this evening, who's actually, they might be going to work here without Jimmy Butler. He's currently battling an ankle injury. Now, Miami also has a losing record against the point spread on the road against Eastern Conference opponents. Now, injury-wise, once again, Butler is questionable. Lowry and Yurtseven, they are out. Not going to see those guys in action. Meanwhile, for Boston, Bol is still out indefinitely. Langford is questionable for them. And when it comes to the number in this one, Boston did see overs recently with Portland, Chicago, and Philadelphia. They're also 7-3 to the over in their last 10 meetings with Miami. Meanwhile, the Heat 17-9 to the over when they travel this season. And that's good for 65% in that particular category. I'm going to lean toward Boston -2.5 and the over 209. Next matchup I have for you, it is going to be Kings versus the Knicks, 7:30 Eastern start time. New York's -5 with the total at 214.5. And despite some recent struggles here, New York still covered the point spread in 6 out of their last 10 ball games. And they're also one of the tougher defensive teams in the Eastern Conference. New York's allowing only 104 points a game for the entire season at any location. And they're also in the top 10 in defensive field goal percentage. Now, offensively, Julius Randle, he's averaging 18.5 points a game, along with 9 boards and 5 assists. Meanwhile, R.J. Barrett, he's scoring 17.5 points a game himself, along with 5 rebounds and a couple assists as well. New York currently finds themselves in the top 10 in shooting the 3 ball. They're taking on a Sacramento team who allows more points per contest on the road than any other team in the association. Now, Sacramento, they're also amongst the worst defensive rebounding teams in the NBA as well. These guys have really struggled underneath the basket. They're actually in the bottom 3 in road defensive boards per game. So we're looking at a team who's really just not getting the job done grabbing defensive boards. Now, speaking of road games, the Kings did get the W, well, in just 6 out of 23 contests away from home. They got the win in just 6 out of 23 when traveling. Now, injury-wise, Fox and Maytu are questionable. Bagley's out. Meanwhile, total-wise, Sacramento's seen overs recently with Milwaukee, Detroit, and the Lakers. Meanwhile, the Knicks saw 3 out of their last 4 get over the line themselves. 5 and 3 to the over in their last 8. I'm going to lean toward New York -5 in the over 214.5. Next matchup, it is going to be Raptors versus the Hawks, 7:30 Eastern start time. Atlanta's -2 with the total at 219.5. Now, the red-hot Atlanta Hawks, they're on a 7-game winning streak, and they successfully cover the number in all 7 of those victories. Now, the Hawks are currently in the top 3 in the NBA in offensive field goal percentage at home, and they're scoring nearly 114 points a game at the State Farm Arena. Trae Young is averaging over 27.5 points a game, along with 4 boards and 9 assists. Meanwhile, John Collins, he's knocking down over 41% of his three-pointers. He's also averaging 16 points a game. Now, defensively, the Hawks are in the top 5 in the league in defensive boards. They're taking on a Toronto team who plays just .500 basketball on the road. And they've also had their struggles offensively this year. Toronto currently finds themselves in the bottom 10 in scoring on average per contest, and they're amongst the worst in the East in offensive field goal percentage away from home as well. Now, injury-wise, Birch and Dragic are both still out indefinitely. When it comes to the total in this one, the Raptors saw 3 out of their last 4 ball games get over the posted number, 60% to the over in their last 10 meetings with Atlanta. Meanwhile, the Hawks saw 6 out of their last 9 get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Atlanta -2 in the over 219.5. Next matchup I have for you, it is going to be Warriors versus the Rockets, 8 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Golden State is the 10.5-point favorite, totals 229. Now, the Warriors have won their last 5 straight, and they're arguably the best defensive team out there. These guys, it's very, very tough to score against them. Having said that, though, these guys did fail to cover in 4 out of their last 6, and they actually have a losing record against the point spread on the road. And believe it or not, the Warriors are actually in the bottom 10 in the NBA in three-point shooting away from home as well. One more thing to add, too. Really tough to kind of nitpick at Golden State, but they do give up the majority of their points in the second quarter. They're actually in the bottom 10 in they score. They're not good offensively in the second quarter. Spit it out. They're in the bottom 10 in second quarter scoring away from home. I just get so excited. I just can't get it out sometimes. But anyway, they're taking on a Rockets team who went 4-3 against the spread in their last 7, with covers against the likes of Utah, Sacramento, and this very Golden State team. The Rockets also do the majority of their scoring in the second half. They're actually in the top 10 in third quarter scoring at home, top 5 in fourth quarter scoring at any location. Christian Wood's averaging 17.5 points a game along with double-digit rebounds. Meanwhile, Eric Gordon's drilling 44% of his 3 balls. He's also averaging over 14 points a game. Now, injury-wise, Porter is questionable. Garuba is out. Meanwhile, for Golden State, Iguodala and Otto Porter, they are out for them. Jellica is questionable. When it comes to the total in this one, the Warriors are 13-9 to the under on the road this season. Meanwhile, Houston saw unders recently with Sacramento, San Antonio, and this very Golden State team. I'm going to lean toward Houston plus 10.5 and the under 229. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup of the show. It is going to be Blazers versus the Thunder, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Portland is -4, totals 218.5. But despite the Blazers' recent struggles, they're actually going up against a Thunder team who's playing without their leading scorer, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Shea's out indefinitely with an ankle injury. Now, OKC also finds themselves in the middle of a 7-game losing streak, and they also posted a record of just 1-12 straight up in their last 13. Now, OKC's biggest problem area is their offensive production, or lack thereof. OKC scores fewer points per contest on average than any other team in the NBA. They're also dead last in the league in offensive field goal percentage, and they find themselves making only 31% of their three-pointers. Now, they're taking on a Portland team who does a pretty nice job shooting the three ball. They're in the top 10 in the NBA in offensive three-point percentage. The Blazers have also covered the number in 6 out of their last 9 ball games. And, of course, they've been far more competitive now with the addition of C.J. McCollum back in the lineup over the past handful of games here. And, of course, speaking of C.J., he's scoring over 20.5 points a night, along with 4 rebounds and 4 assists. Now, CJ's also been shooting pretty good from three-land. He's drilling over 40% of his three-pointers this year. And speaking of three-pointers, well, Norm Powell, he's making nearly 41% of his three balls himself. He's also averaging over 18 points a game. And even though the Blazers have struggled on the defensive end of the court this season, they do still rank in the top 10 in the NBA in defensive boards on the road. Now, injury-wise, Lillard and Zeller, they are both still out indefinitely. Meanwhile, Nance and Ellaby, they are questionable as well. Meanwhile, for OKC on the other side of things, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he is out for them. Favors has been upgraded to probable. And when it comes to the total in this one, OKC saw 4 out of their last 6 fall under the line. Meanwhile, Portland on the other side of things, they saw unders recently with Minnesota, Miami, and Orlando. I'm going to lean toward Portland -4 and the under 218.5. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap. Powered to you by my website at brockpage.com, where we went 6-0 in our last 6 premium sports picks on that page. It was certainly a great Sunday, very profitable Sunday as well. Give me the Clippers +2 over 219.5. I also like the Philadelphia 76ers -3.5 under 221. Give me Cleveland -8 under 210.5. Boston Celtics -2.5 over 209. I also like the New York Knicks -5 over 214.5. Atlanta Hawks -2 over 219.5. I'm also leaning toward Houston +10.5 under 229. And before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are also 5-2 in our last 7 $1.99 daily best plays on brockpage.com as well. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward Portland -4 and the under 218.5. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on brockpage.com. Now, an important reminder here, guys. If you do end up deciding to get a package here, if you're on the fence about getting a membership, I utilize the Patreon platform for my website. Patreon bills you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up signing up for a package today, you are going to get a full day worth of content, but you're also going to get billed again tomorrow on February 1st, so you can get content through the end of February as well. So if you're on the fence, you want to save some money, maybe hold off and sign up tomorrow. But if you want to go ahead and dive in, maybe sign up for the board member tier. We do have 5 premium picks going off here today on my website, and board members get access to all 5 of those. Only board members get access to every pick that I give out on that site. But once again, guys, I always tell folks in every single video, for your max value, for the best bang for your money, it's always better to sign up early in the month. The earlier in the month you sign up, the better. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. I also want to thank you guys for, tuning in, man. We've really seen really good growth over the past week or so with regard to views. We're getting a lot more views over the 3 videos I'll post in a day. We're getting over 5,000-6,000 collective views a day. That's big for us, guys. That's great. And what that's going to do is that's going to reach out and get new viewers as well. It's going to help the search, help the algorithm. So you guys are great. Thank you so much for tuning in. And you guys are doing awesome for me. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me. Got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Monday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at brockpage.com.